In this project, we're going to be creating a 2-column newsletter. You should have completed projects 1 and 2 before you start this project. If you have completed those projects, you'll already know most of what you need to know to do this 2-column newsletter project. The 2-column newsletter project will be using 3 different page styles. There will be a page style for the first page, one for left pages, and one for right pages. All 3 of the page styles will include headers and footers. The header on the first page will be a special header that we could refer to as a masthead. It will be separate from the headers on the left and right pages. The sample newsletter uses some lorem ipsum text as fillers just to demonstrate the different pages and demonstrate some options for inserting graphics. As you can see by the shaded text here, we've used inserted fields. We've used the inserted title field, and we've used an inserted date field. This paragraph is using the standard heading 1 format. If you like, you can create custom formats for the different paragraphs. It's possible to right-click, choose Paragraph, and Edit Style, and modify the text body paragraph style. Just as a demonstration, let's add about 0.32 inches before the first line in the paragraph. Let's slide the paragraph style dialog box over and use Apply to preview what that'll look like. And if you like that change, you can select OK. The result of that change is we've indented the first line of each paragraph. The example shows a number of different inserted graphics. Here you see a graphic that is using the wrap to the right option, and down here you'll see a graphic that is shifted to the left. However, notice that the text is wrapped around this, and that's because this graphic, let me double click on it and take a look at it. This graphic is using the optimal wrap option with contour toggled on, and this allows the text to follow not the graphic's box area, but it allows it to wrap into the white spaces within that graphic. If you want to do this contour thing, you should create your graphics with the PNG graphics file format. This graphic has been inserted without a border, but with extra space. And the way that's done, you see that the graphic is positioned to the left, and you see in the borders area that although no border lines have been drawn, there has been padding to the right set for 0.12 inches. And the result is there's extra space between this graphic and the text. If we look at the header for the My News Left page, you'll see that the header is using the inserted title field. And if you look at the header for My News Right pages, you'll see that the header is using the inserted date field. When you insert a date field, you have many options for displaying the date. Let me double click on this date field, and you can see it can be fixed or it can be changed every time you edit the document, and you have a number of different formats to select from for your inserted date field. There are even some additional formats on the list. So there are a lot of options here for inserting date fields. If we switch to the book view and zoom out, you can see how the newsletter pages are arranged, and these page formats have been set up for two-sided printing. Let's go ahead and go through the process of creating the two-column newsletter. I've gone ahead and created a new document, and I've used File Save As to name the document My Newsletter. And now over in the sidebar, I've selected the Page Styles, Custom Styles area, and I'm going to create the 3 page styles that I'm going to use in this newsletter. So I'll right-click, select New, and I'm going to create My Left Pages. I'm actually going to call this page style My Left News. The next style temporarily is My Left News. I'll have to go back and change that once my other styles are created. I'll go to the Page tab, and I'll make this be 8.5 by 11 Portrait. This is a left page, and I want to use two-sided printing, which means the right margin needs to be larger. So I'll go in here and I'll set the left margin to 0.5, the right margin to 0.75, 0.5, and 0.5 for the top and bottom margins. I want to turn the header on, the footer on, and I'm going to use 2 columns. You notice that the default spacing for 2 columns is 0.2 inches between the columns, and you have the power to adjust that. In this case, we'll accept the defaults and we'll say OK. That takes care of my left news page. Now let's do a right page. And the right news page next style is going to be my left news page. Again, I'll go to the Page tab, and this time I'm working on the right page. The right page needs a large margin on the left, 0.75. Now, when I'm in this box, all I have to do is press the Tab key to jump to the next box. I'm going to turn on the header, turn on the footer, set the columns to 2 columns. OK. One more page style to create, and that's the first page. Right-click, New, my first page, and the next page is going to be my left news page. Again, this first page is on the right, need a large margin on the left. Turn on the header, turn on the footer, turn on columns. OK. Before I forget, I need to go back to my left news page, right-click, modify, go to the organizer, set the next page style as my right news. OK. Let me go to the very beginning and select my first news as the page style. Now once again, I want to check to make sure my formatting and my margins are set correctly, and to do that I need to put some dummy text here. I'm going to do Control Enter to force a page break. I already see that my first news has a problem. I'm supposed to have 2 columns here. Let me right-click, modify, columns, 2 columns, headers on, footers on, headers on, page, as the margins are right, followed by Okay, somehow I missed that the first time around. So I'm now on my first news page. I'll force a page break, Control Enter, and that should put me on my left news page. Force another page break, Control Enter, and that puts me on my right news page. Okay, now I think I'll save this, and then I'm going to go to the book view and zoom out. It's always a good idea when you create some new page formats and you want them to be double-sided to go into the book view, zoom out, and make sure everything is working the way you expected. If you would have gotten the margins wrong here between the left page and the right page, it would become obvious when you go into my book view. Now that we've created the page styles we need, let's create a custom paragraph style for our first page header. I'm in the custom styles for paragraph styles, right click, new. I'm going to call this my first page header. You can call this anything you like. I'll select text body way down the list here as the next style. I'm not going to inherit these styles from anything, so I'll scroll up here and I'll say inherit from none. Indents and spacing, I'm going to accept the defaults, but under alignment I want to center this, and I need to select font. So I think I'll choose Liberation Sans, bold 18, and you get an idea what that's going to look like. Under font effects, I'm going to choose the shadow option, and then I'm going to select borders, and I think I'll have a line above and below, border lines above and below, and I can mess with a line style here. I have a lot of line styles to choose. I think maybe I'll try this one, and just for fun I'll make this a little wider. But the important thing I want to do is I want to have some padding above and below. So above, I'm going to make this about 0.2, and below I'm going to have it about 0.2, and I'm going to say OK, and now let me put something in there. Actually, what I want to put in there is an inserted field. So let me go to the File, Properties, create a title, OK. Then in the first page, I'm on my first news, first page header, I will select Insert, Title, and then I will select my first page header, and there you see it. I think that I want to make this just a little bit fancier, so let me go right click, modify, and I think I'll put some area behind this, and let me try color. Wonder what I think that looks like. Let's apply that and see. Well, that's interesting. Let me experiment with gradient. What do we have here? Linear gradients, axial, radial, ellipsoid, quadratic. We have all kinds of possible gradients. Let's try this one. And you see, it's easy to experiment with these page styles by selecting something and choosing apply, and seeing how you like it before you go ahead and save it. Let's experiment with a bitmap. And it turns out there's a whole bunch of standard bitmaps in the gallery. And let's choose this marble, or maybe choose this one, apply it, see how you like it, and you can go on and on with this. If you have your own custom graphic that you'd like to use for a bitmap, when you're choosing bitmap, you can say add or import your own file. Now that I look at this double line here, not sure I like that. Let's go back to the borders and experiment with this a little bit. What would happen if we make that really big? That's a little better. Let's keep going. How about 7 point? Interesting. Okay, let's just save that for our paragraph style. All of that you see, the shading, the border lines, the text with a font, all of that is stored in the My First Page header paragraph style. And by having this shaded, you can tell that this is actually an inserted field. Let's go ahead and add a new line here, and let's insert the date field. And if we double click on this date field, we could actually say Monday, October 12th. And if I double click on my first page header paragraph style, that gets added right there. So I have a good start now on my newsletter. What I want to do now is I want to add some filler text so I can play around with more options here. So I've gone off to the internet and I've found a lorem ipsum text generator, and I've copied a bunch of text. I'm going to say edit, paste special, unformatted text, and unfortunately it added some blank paragraphs that I don't really want. So I'll just go back and remove some of those blank paragraphs or empty paragraphs. Let me add some more so I have more than one page. Control C, copy, go to the end of the document, paste, and now I have 4 pages of newsletter that I can experiment with. So now I've created a 2-column newsletter with a first page, second page. The first page is going to be on the right side. The next page is going to be on the left side. And I think what I'll do is in the header for my left page, my left news page, I'm going to insert the title. And I need a format for that header. I have two options here. I'm using the default header style. I could also go and create my own custom header style. Instead of doing that, I'm going to right-click, select Paragraph, Edit Style, and I'm going to actually edit the default header style. Start with the organizer. I don't want to inherit this from any place. And so I will, the style is header. The alignment is going to be center. Let's choose a font. Let's choose bold 14. And instead of having a serif, I think I'll have a sans serif. You know the difference between a sans serif and serif are these little hooks on the end of the letters or the characters. And let's go to the borders and put a line above and below the borders. And let's say OK, and see what we like, see if we like it. I think that's okay. For my footer, I'm going to type page space insert page number space of space insert page count. Select all of this, and I'm going to manually adjust this footer. There are all kinds of options for changing these paragraph styles, and I'm going to manually select bold, and I'm going to go in here and choose my sans serif, and I can go ahead and select all of that, copy it. Now let's see, what do I need to take care of here in the formatting? I've got my paragraph styles set for my first header. I've got my footer set for my first page. I've got a header set for my left news. I've got a footer for my left news paragraphs, and a header for my right news. I think I'll just put the date in here. So I'm going to insert a date field and double click on that and choose a format for it. And there we go. Let's take a look at this as book view and see what we have. Okay, so let me zoom out just or zoom in just a little bit here. Here's my first page header and footer. The left pages have the inserted title field, the right pages have the inserted date field, and so on. It looks like I don't have a footer in my right pages yet. So let's go back and do that. I'm going to select all of this and copy this footer and go to my right page and paste it. And that should finish all the page formatting. And as you've seen, you can go in and you can adjust the formats for the headers. You can put in padding, you can put in special graphics. As a matter of fact, you could actually insert graphics into your masthead header if you like. Speaking of inserting graphics, let me go ahead and in this first paragraph, I'm just going to insert a graphic. So I'll use insert image, and now I have to go find an image. And I've collected quite a few images for this project. I think that I'll use this computer right picture. Double click, and then I'm going to double click on that image and do some modifications. Always want to make sure I keep the ratio set, and I'm going to make this 1.5, and I want to put it on the left side. I'm going to anchor it to a paragraph. I'm going to use the wrap before with a little spacing here, and no borders. Let's just see what that looks like. I'm going to go to the very first word here, and I'm going to enter an empty paragraph, and I'm going to put a title for this section of the newsletter, and I'll just say first article. I will use the default heading 1 paragraph style for that. Over here I may have another article with the heading 1 style, and once again you can use the default paragraph style, you can modify the default paragraph style, or you can create a custom paragraph style for any of these sections. Let's go and insert another graphic. This time I'm just going to reduce it manually here, but I do need to double click on it, and in the center I'm going to anchor it to a paragraph rather than a character. I'm going to wrap none and no borders. Okay, I want to drag it down here a little bit and put it in this paragraph. Now notice that on the toolbar, when you have a graphic selected, the toolbar changes. Let me click in the text here, and you see the text formatting toolbar. But if I select a graphic, I get the graphics formatting toolbar with all kinds of options. Here are wrap options. Here are alignment options. You can align center or left, right. Here are, if you have overlapping graphics, you can decide who's on first, who's on the front. You can add different kinds of borders, and you can add background colors. I can choose borders, border style, border color, and on and on. This is the image mode. Right now it says default. The options are grayscale, black and white, or you can make this as a watermark. Let's leave this as a default. You can even crop your graphics, and you can flip them left and right. Let's go down and add another graphic here just for fun. Somewhere in this paragraph, find it, insert image. I've inserted another graphic here. If I double click, you can see the settings I've used. I've made it be 1.5 inches. Let me anchor it to the paragraph, locate it horizontal to the left, wrap with a contour, OK, and you see how the text now is wrapped around that graphic. Let's do one more example. Insert another graphic. I can manually reduce his size. I can choose to align it to the left. I can choose to wrap the text around it. And when I do, I need some more space here. So, let me double click. Let me go to the borders area. Now I'm not going to use any lines for this border, but I want to put some padding to the right. Turn off the synchronize because I only want padding to the right. And let's see what happens when I add some padding. There, that spaces the text out away from that graphic a little bit. So you see there are all kinds of things you can do once you've created your basic page styles and paragraph styles for your newsletter.